First play of the game, we're going blind pig.
We're going to go blind pig.
Blind pig, yeah.
So I'm also a big fan of the blind pig action.
The only reason we're running this action now is because he wanted to say blind pig and look cool.
And welcome to the Blind Pig podcast. This is your front row seat to all things British basketball, digging beneath the headlines and bringing you real stories that help shaping our league. Before we jump in, huge thanks to everyone who has already subscribed to our channel. We're in touching distance of our goal of 500 subscribers. And for us, it's something we're passionate about, building community. And so if you're new here, make sure you smash like, hit subscribe, and join the community by making sure you comment below. We're going to do something special when we hit that 500 mark. Maybe a live Q&A, maybe a giveaway. We're not sure yet, but stay tuned. Let's get down into it. First off, we have to talk about international break. And if you haven't seen already my reaction to Lithuania's historic comeback victory over GB, or my reaction to GB dominating Iceland, make sure you head to Instagram or TikTok where we've got those full videos. In short though, it was an awesome showing for the GB's men's national team. I genuinely believe in this squad. They were dynamic, they played hard-nosed defence, they were full of enthusiasm, and I was really impressed with how well Mark Stutel stepped them up, not only in that first game against Lithuania, but also to bring them together to make sure they had that mental toughness in the face of that second game against Iceland. I'm genuinely excited to see what they do against Italy in a few months' time, and I believe that this GB squad might be the one that takes us to our first FIBA World Cup. That being said, that was the international break happening in our calendar. We're now back in domestic league action. And it was always likely that teams were going to use that international break as a chance to make changes. And for a lot of fans, they may have, if their team wasn't doing particularly well, been looking forward to see some fresh faces, some new signings, possibly getting their chance to shine. Yet what did we get? Silence. For teams like Caledonia, it was the perfect opportunity to fill a media void, to integrate players like Malcolm Delpeche and LJ Bryant into the spotlight. But the announcements felt rushed on game day, the coverage was really minimal, but just imagine the excitement that could have happened if these players had been introduced with the proper media push. We're talking like behind the scenes content, community meet and greets. The league's marketing potential is there, but the uptake just isn't. Particularly when you're bringing in someone like Malcolm Delpeche, who's had a great career in Newcastle over the last few years, and then moving to Caledonia, one of their closest geographical rivals. That would have felt like a story that could have been made there that would have been easy to market and sell. The fans, we want narratives. We don't just want names. International break also brought those same sort of problems around injury reports. In most top leagues, clear injury lists are just standard. The fans know who's out, who's questionable, and who's back. But in Super League basketball, the information drought is real. It's becoming way too common for the pre-game DAZN coverage, which is happening 10 minutes before tip, is the only news source. Here's a list of all the injuries that were announced in the Super League basketball before our games, and these are the ones that were announced beforehand. Fans don't really know what to expect. And genuinely, it's kind of a little bit insulting as a fan just to be told that actually it doesn't matter who's playing, you'll watch it regardless. Pretty much every team this week has had players who have been injured and they failed to let fans know with any more than a day's notice. That's absolutely crazy. This is the week where they have the most amount of time to lead in, to prepare, to create graphics, and yet still it's happening on the day or happening 10 minutes before on the DAZN coverage. I'm calling on Super League basketball teams to do more. People in Caledonia like Ethan Price, Rhiannon Holland, are they close to return? Is it a week-to-week situation? Silence from official channels only leaves fans frustrated and the players are then subject to rumour. Transparency here doesn't just help the fans, but it also deepens the trust in the league's professionalism. That's why we applaud the London Lions this week. Obviously, the news of Joel Scott, one of the SLB MVP frontrunners, being out for 10 to 12 weeks is really tough to break. But how they've handled it in terms of letting fans know has been first class. And they're doing the same thing with even positive news about players coming back. Mervyn James from the Sheffield Sharks returned from injury this week, but you wouldn't have known about it if you didn't look at the box score. Mervyn James is a huge piece for Sheffield, and him being worked back into the rotation should be a big story. Let's celebrate it. You know, the upside of keeping your opponents guessing isn't worth how unprofessional it makes us all look. And that's the worry. If you're really worried about your competitive edge, if that's the thing driving you not releasing information about injuries and players coming back, then say he's a game time decision. Say he's day to day. You know, there are ways to talk about people having injuries and coming back from injuries that still allow fans to understand what's going on and who's going to be playing on the day. The risk of not doing that is this is just going to become a weekend sport, and we don't have enough to engage in from a Monday through Thursday that actually makes it meaningful to be a Super League basketball fan. In terms of the games this weekend, I'm so glad that we had Sunday, because the games on Thursday and Friday were really lacklustre. And fair enough, we're coming off international break, but the drama in Thursday and Friday was pretty much non-existent, and a lot of the games looked a little bit passionless. But the matchup between Leicester and Cheshire on Sunday was about more than just points. In this championship matchup, we were really treated to a chess match between two coaching heavyweights in Rob Paternostro and Ben Thomas. Leicester were pulling away early in the game and led by as much as 10 points. And the double act of Mark Loving as a stretch four and Nate Martin, healthy, back in the starting lineup, really gives Leicester some great roll threats and some much needed outside shooting. But Cheshire had some huge shots in the third quarter and a massive night for Skylar White, who went 8 for 19 on 20 points, and Patrick Robinson, using his speed and his crafty finishing on the way to the rim, scoring 18 points on 9 of 12 shooting. Cheshire pulled this game back and took the lead. And the mistake that Leicester made probably throughout the third quarter was allowing too many easy switches on defence, particularly with Nate Martin being switched on to Patrick Robinson, and then Pat Robinson blowing by him and getting to the rim. But Leicester fought back in the fourth, and we came then to the two most insane moments of the game. Firstly, with around 48 seconds left, there's a pick and roll between Don Cleary and Nate Martin. Rideau is the help defender for Cheshire, and as he goes to help, he tries to rip the ball from Nate Martin and gets called for a defensive foul. Now, from my point, LaQuincy is just standing there, a little bit contesting the call, but if nothing else, he's just being an irritant. He's standing in Nate Martin's spaces on the floor. Nate Martin gives him a small, I think barely anything forearm to the leg, just to let him know he's there. It's not a lot. Raekwon Battle comes over and gives a small push to LaQuincy Rideau, just to let him know, hey, don't do that to my teammate, let him get up. It's a really small action. LaQuincy Rideau is fouled out, Raekwon Battle standing up for his teammates. But somehow, what this has escalated to is to the referees calling a double unsportsmanlike and double text, which is absolutely crazy. Just a reminder, this interaction between Cam Holden and Rodney Chapman a few weeks ago led to no action. But somehow these two peacocking to each other, trying to prove that they're the man, led to a double unsportsman and a double tech. That's just over-reffing for me. But back to the game itself, with Leicester down 3, it was Spencer Johnson who hit a huge 3 to tie the game, and then Don Cleary stole the ball on the inbounds before knocking down the game-winning free throw. We've got to just say in this game, Raekwon Battle is the flipping man. His shot making is absolutely unmatched and his confidence is something else. It's off the radar and it's really giving Leicester something that other teams in the league don't have in terms of that dynamic scorer from all 3 levels. Tempers didn't cool after the buzzer, where Rob Paternostro, who's never one to shy away from confrontation, exchanged heated words with the Cheshire assistant coach. Ben Thomas, the Cheshire Phoenix head coach, then intervenes and the shove was caught on camera. We did have a table official trying to quickly step in, but this altercation is definitely going to be reviewed by league officials. I think potentially suspensions or fines could be handed down. And ultimately we have to ask, what does the post-game handshake really achieve, other than fueling people up and the chance of people just to get a little bit bitchy with one another? The Newcastle Eagles had a great week despite injuries. Sheffield first, where they ground out a win, 80-68. Then they beat Caledonia in trophy action, 79-76. We can talk quickly though about the visual disaster in that Sheffield game. Sheffield were wearing their home dark blue kits, and let's be honest, they're pretty much black with a little blue wave on the shorts, and it clashed horribly with Newcastle's actual black uniform. Fans in the arena and those watching online were complaining about the difficulty tracking players, especially during fast breaks or when the players switched sides quickly. Even the commentators were struggling, and they had several on-air mix-ups. The league has rules just about this stuff that dictates what home and away teams should wear. It clearly shouldn't happen. Let's say, worst case scenario, Newcastle had brought the wrong kit to the game and there's no way they can go back and get their white kit. Well, someone from Sheffield has to take the initiative and say, okay, you guys have got black, we'll wear the alternative, we'll wear our yellow. It just looks amateurish otherwise. The worst thing is you could see in the DAZN pre-game coverage that clearly both teams knew they were going to be wearing these kits. Someone should have the initiative to say, hey, is this not going to cause a problem? Especially for new fans who may be stumbling across this or watching for the first time, they're going to be left wondering which team is which. In the game itself, Sheffield totally let this one go. Newcastle only had 7 players, and Sheffield match up pretty well to Newcastle. But somehow, Sheffield let Newcastle take 20 more field goals than them. Anytime you let the opposite team have 20 more shots than you do in a game, it's going to be tough to win that game. It wasn't just, though, the amount of shot attempts, it was also the turnovers. Sheffield had 16 turnovers to Newcastle's 6. We can't pin the blame on one particular person from a Sheffield side, because the truth was there were turnovers all over the shop. Rodney Chapman III, Dirk Williams, Jalen Deloach, all of them had 2 or 3 turnovers in this game. The Sheffield Sharks just need to be more disciplined. This stank to me of international break rust, where players just weren't in the right mindset coming out of the gates. In Newcastle's win over Caledonia, Maceo Jack turned into Captain Jack, aka Batman, that at this point is just becoming a straight up meme among fans. He regularly is shouldering the scoring burden and dropped 26 against the Gladiators. Mitch Clark has appropriately been cast as Robin and added in 11 points, handling the point guard duties with no turnovers, even though he was active in just around 30 minutes of action. On the Gladiators side, Eric Gordon, their centre who played just 2 games, was released for medical reasons. And in his absence, new signings Malcolm Delpeche and LJ Bryant had to find their rhythm on the fly. Watching the game, the thing that you could really tell about Caledonia is that the offence remains inconsistent. People don't necessarily know where their shots are coming, and the shots that do go up feel forced. Jet Spillman went just 3 for 10, whilst Matthew Ragsdale went 6 for 20. With both Ethan Price and Rhian Holland on the sidelines, this team's ceiling is limited until they return. It's particularly disappointing for Caledonia. This being a trophy game, you would have liked to approach this with a new lease of life and a chance to make a positive impact in one of the competitions that happens across the Super League basketball season. Instead, a loss here means that they're going to need a real miracle in their game against Sheffield on Sunday in order to be one of the second best placed teams. Also causing a stir was Caledonia's decision to bring in 2 new centres, both LJ and Malcolm Dalpesh. Online chatter is rife about Kevin Allen's status. The Caledonia Gladiators confirmed via Facebook that Ethan Price and Rhian Holland were not available through injury and that Kevin Allen was just unavailable. Some sources suggest that this might be another pre-season move, while others are citing ongoing fitness issues. Without an official statement from the Caledonia staff, it's all speculation here, but his absence leads a void, particularly in the scoring for Caledonia. Bringing in 2 new centres may be a signal that his time in Scotland is soon to be over. Will Caledonia make another roster move, or is Allen set for a return soon? Shout out to Manchester, who had 4 players in their double-digit win over Bristol in the Championship. Bristol were clearly missing Cam Holden, who was serving a 1-game suspension after elbowing Isaiah Small in a Surrey game earlier this year. Looking ahead, we have trophy action this weekend. If Newcastle beat Sheffield on Friday, then they advance to the semi-finals to face Cheshire, whilst a Bristol win over London on Friday could lock them into playing the best second-place team. I also just want to shout out the new Gladiators jerseys. These are tough and easily one of the best top 3 jerseys in the league. Glads, I'll send you my address for a sample. Well, that's it for this episode of the Blind Pig podcast. The league obviously is about more than stats, it's personalities, stories and grinding for every result. and we're almost at 500 subs, so let's make sure we smash through that ceiling together. Don't forget to send in your questions, your takes, and your favourite moments from the weekend's British basketball action. Catch you in the next one, guys.
First play of the game, we're going blind pig.
We're going to go blind pig.
Blind pig, yeah. So I'm also a big fan of the blind pig action.
The only reason we're running this action now is because he wanted to say blind pig and look cool.